Hello and welcome to the interview here on France 24. Our guest today is Hamed Esmaeilion. Exactly 3 years ago, his wife and his 9-year-old daughter were among the 176 passengers of Ukraine International Airlines flight PS 752. On January 8, 2020, that plane was shut down shortly after taking off from Tehran's airport. No one survived. It took 3 days for Iran to admit that it was responsible, arguing since then that it had mistaken the aircraft for an incoming U.S. missile. Hamed Esmaeilion created with other relatives the Association of Families of Flight PS 752 Victims. I want to thank you very much for being on the show from Toronto in Canada.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me.
I want to ask you, we've seen protests erupt suddenly in Iran, and in some way you have become one of the symbols of the opposition to the regime in Tehran. For 3 years, you've been asking for justice, for accountability, but mostly on your own. Do you think that since this protest movement was ignited by the death of a 22-year-old Mahsa Amini at the hand of the police, things are changing, including for you and the relatives of the victims?
I can say after we formed this association as a team, the working together, I mean the family members, the volunteers helping us, we had tried hard to bring Islamic Republic of Iran to justice, the commanders of IRGC, the Supreme Leader of Iran, the members of National Security Council. We knew that it's going to be a long and bumpy road ahead of us, but as you said, on September, when this revolution of women life freedom started in Iran, it gave us a lot of hope that this time is different. And if we want to fight for justice, we have to stand together. Everyone in this world, every Iranian, if you're inside or out of the country, we have to stay united and be together and fight for the common goal, which would be freedom and justice.
Right. Last week, Britain, Canada, Sweden, and Ukraine formally launched a process to hold Iran accountable. They're urging Iran to agree to an arbitration. And the process is that if there's no agreement on an arbitration within 6 months, this could be taken to the International Court of Justice. Are you satisfied by this move, which took many years to happen because those countries who have nationals who died on the plane did not prove to be very active in the 3 years since this happened?
For your information, there were 85 Canadians and permanent residents. There were 17 Swedish. There were 4 Brits and 11 Ukrainians on that flight. So I think this decision was a right decision to make, long overdue, but, now is better than 2 years later. I mean, they have given Iran 6 months, started 28th of December, and we expect them to take this to International Court of Justice on 28th of June. Iran is not going to cooperate. Like the last 3 years, they never said a word about the truth. They never did anything about justice. And they have had some sham trials in Tehran. It started like a few weeks ago. If you notice, Mark, after this revolution started, they have imprisoned thousands of Iranians. And 2 of them, at least 2 young, innocent men have been hanged in Iran just after a few weeks. So compare that with this crime that they have committed, IRGC has committed. After 3 years, we even don't know who is the accused in this court, who is responsible, and what are the details of the crime that they have committed. So you can compare and you can decide about the justice system in Iran. So that's why we think an international court would be the best place to go for finding the truth.
Right. Obviously, for 3 years, I'm sure you've been asking yourself the same question every day. Why did this happen? We know a Canadian judge, the Ukrainian government, have said that this was not an accident, like Iran claims, but an act of terrorism. Is this also your opinion? And if so, how do you explain that?
Absolutely. It is, I think, probably all of the family's opinion. And that's the public opinion too in Iran and out of the country. Uh, if you want to say that that was a human error, you have to show a document to the public. You can't say that that unit was 105 degrees misaligned and don't show that unit to the world. All the evidence and all the like documents about that night shows us that this has been an intentional act. And even in the statement of the four countries, you can see that they take Iran to the court based on this belief that this was intentional and it has some criminal responsibility for everyone who had a role in the downing of flight PS752.
Right. But why do you think, if so, why do you think they did that?
It's very difficult to read the minds of the criminals. My belief is at the time that they were in the danger of retaliation of U.S. Army, they opened airspace for the civilian airplanes to use them as a human shield. And when they were so worried about U.S. retaliation, they shot the plane down. They have a concept in IRGC, they call that asymmetrical war. When you're busy with a real war somewhere, you do something somewhere else to reduce the tensions. If you notice after the downing of flight PS752, you don't see any sign of the war and everything was over. So I think they sacrificed 176 passengers and an unborn child to save themselves.
Right. How do you gauge what's happening right now in Iran, and how do you position yourself? Being an outsider, are you calling people to continue the demonstrations? I mean, they've been continuing, but there's a crackdown, and some observers think that the movement is running out of steam, but it's also difficult to call people to go into the street given what they're facing.
I mean, I don't think that this revolution goes to silence. This has started, every revolution has an ups and downs. So we have to wait and see what's the next move of the Iranian people. What I do here and other activists, we try to echo the voices of Iranian people. We try to say to the Western countries to expel the ambassadors of Islamic Republic of Iran, to sanction the oligarchs of the Iranian regime, to stop the negotiation. I think these are the demands of Iranian people. It doesn't go anywhere. Islamic Republic of Iran won't be able to control people, especially the young generation. So this will continue till the end of the Islamic Republic of Iran. This is my own belief.
Right. Well, you've called for the ambassador to be kicked out, the Revolutionary Guard Corps to be listed as a terrorist organization, the nuclear negotiations to be cast aside. This hasn't happened, though. I mean, despite all the condemnations we're hearing against Iran, even for its role in the war in Ukraine, how do you explain that?
Economy and politics. I mean, when they think about economic deals with the Islamic Republic of Iran, that's why they put all the human rights files away, and they don't talk about more than 500 people that got killed in the last 4 months. More than 60 of them were children. 29 children were killed on flight PS752. In Bloody November, they killed more than 30 children. So my question to them, was it the outcome of the negotiation with Iran? So you couldn't do anything with JCPOA. Other than that, you were unsuccessful in human rights issues as well. So you have to send a strong message to Islamic Republic of Iran that the Western countries, the free world, is serious about human rights.
Right. But do you feel that this new movement that was ignited by women, we saw people from all different walks of life participate, is deeply shaking the regime to the core, more than it lets go on in public?
Of course, in the last 44 years, I grew up in Iran. I left Iran when I was 32, and I witnessed a lot of movements in Iran, and even when I was out of Iran. But this time, this is out of the borders of Islamic Republic of Iran. If you remember Green Movement in 2009, it was not the demand. The main demand was not the regime change. But now people are talking about regime change everywhere, as I said, in and out of the country, in every single city, in every small city or capital city. They're talking about the regime change and about the dictatorship of Ali Khamenei. I think they can't stand this situation for a long time. I mean, the regime. And we have to wait and see what's going to happen in the near future.
Just a very last question. Several Iranian activists, opponents in exile, have received death threats, have also been warned by security services that they were being targeted. Does this apply to you, because you are indeed someone who's very vocal?
There have been death threats in the past and insulting messages. It's like a day-to-day thing. I see that on the social media every day. We just share that with the federal police here in Canada. Canada, unfortunately, is not taking these threats very seriously, but they exist, yes. But, we won't give up. We're going to go to the end of this story.
Hamed Esmaeilion, I want to thank you very much for appearing here on the France 24 interview. And I want to thank you all for watching it.
Thanks for having me, Marc.
Sure.